Hey everyone, today I'm going to make meatloaf. Something my grandmother taught me how to make, and I've modified it just a little bit over the years to accommodate my husband and kids. So what I've got here is 2.5 pounds of ground beef. I use the 90-10. Use whatever you want, but I like the 90-10. I have a can of diced tomatoes with green peppers and onions, and I used a knife and just cut up some of the bigger pieces, just because not everyone likes a big chunk of tomato. So I'm going to add this in. You want all those juices. And then I'm going to add an egg. And I use gloves just because I don't like to have to pick all the meat out from underneath my fingernails. And I've already turned my oven on and preheated it to 400. You can do it anywhere between 350 and 400. I choose a higher temperature because it doesn't take as long to cook. And you don't want to over handle the meat. You just want to work in the egg and the tomatoes just enough to where it's worked in. It's not clumpy and sticky. I hate how it will get like that sometimes. Okay, so I've got my 9x13 pan here, and I sprayed it down with some Pam just so it doesn't stick. And just plop it down in here like that, both sides. And we are a family of 4, and we can eat off of this 2 days or more. So it does feed a lot. Okay, so that's it. You may clean it up just a little bit in the center here, so it doesn't touch. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to take my gloves off. And what my husband calls the secret sauce. He loves ketchup. He and my daughter made a mess when I opened it up. So you don't have to put ketchup on the top, but this is how I grew up eating it. My grandma made it this way. And just put a good thick layer. And it's going to take 45 minutes to an hour to cook. And about halfway through, what I do is it's going to release a lot of juices, and it's going to build up in the pan. What I do is I, of course, get your oven mitts and pour out all the excess juice. I would leave just a little bit in there so it doesn't dry out completely, because you don't want that. You don't want it completely gone, but you want enough in there that it's not going to burn in the bottom of the pan or the dish here. So my oven's already preheated, so I'm going to put this in here, and it's going to cook 45 minutes to an hour. And like I said, in about 25 minutes or so, I'm going to check it and pour off all the excess grease that comes out, and put it back in the oven to let it finish cooking. This goes great with what I usually do is make mashed potatoes, green beans, sometimes biscuits if I feel like it. And of course I don't make homemade biscuits, I buy Mary B's. And then I usually make tomato gravy. And I'll show you how to make tomato gravy as well to go with this. Some people call it red eye gravy. Just here in the South, it's called a couple different things. I grew up with it being called tomato gravy. So I'm going to cut for now, and I will see you back in just a little bit when I go to pull it out to drain all the juices so you can see what it looks like. Okay, so got a few seconds left, and it's going to ding my timer. I did the timer for 25 minutes so I could show you what it's going to look like whenever I go to empty it out. So here we go. I really need to get that fixed. Okay, So I'm just going to pour it in my sink. You're going to get some ketchup to go with that on there. That's fine. Okay. I'm going to leave this little bit in here. You can tell it's pretty hot. And I'm going to put it back in there for another 25 to 30 minutes. I'm just going to keep an eye on it. It'll start to get a little brown around the edges, and I'll show you once it's ready to come out. And what I do is I get my spatula and I just like cut down in the middle, and just to look to make sure that it's done. You don't want a raw meatloaf. So as soon as it's done, I'll show you, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. Okay, so my husband said that I needed to show this for all those out there who can't make anything like him. I opened up a can of green beans. I like to make mine fresh normally, but I'm out of fresh green beans. So I opened up a can. It was the Green Giant. I drained most of the liquid out of it, and then I put like a tablespoon or so of butter in there. And I've got that on about a medium heat because it's going to be a little while before everything's ready. And I like real mashed potatoes. My husband does not. So these are like $1 or so a package, and I usually make 2 packs because I'll have my mother-in-law come eat with us also. So all it is, 2 cups of water per package, and I add a little butter to it, just even though it is buttery home style. They make a really good one with baby reds. There's I think it's a garlic and herb that's really good. Sour cream and chives. All the brand in these little packs are great. Walmart even carries the family pack, so it's like 2 small packages. So right now I just turned my 4 cups of water on to boil. Now I'm going to show you how to make the gravy. I'm going to make tomato gravy, and I got my burner turned on to medium high heat, and I'm just going to put a little bit of oil in to cover the bottom of the pan. If you want to come in so you can see, it's not a whole lot. So we're going to let that get hot, and once it's hot, I'm going to start adding flour. And I used another can, I will use another can of the diced tomatoes with the green peppers and onions. I just like these. It gives it a lot of flavor. It's better than the plain, but you can use tomato sauce, you can use petite, you can diced tomatoes, you can use any that you want. So it's going to be just a few minutes for the oil to heat up, so I'm going to pause it for just a second, and then I'll come back once I'm ready to put the flour in. Okay, I'm going to give you a quick peek at the meatloaf. It's got about 10 more minutes left, give or take. The juices are building back up, so I'll empty that out again when I'm ready to serve it. My water for my potatoes are starting to come to a boil, so I'm going to go ahead and turn those off. And then I'll add the potatoes, the packaged potatoes, once I'm done with the gravy, because that water's going to stay hot. So the oil's getting pretty warm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add flour. And you can see it's almost like a boil, sizzle. And now I'm just going to stir. And this is kind of thin, but what I want to do is break up all the clumps from the flour that I can. And I'm going to add a little more. I don't want it real thick, but until I get it to the consistency that I want, I'll just add, I think this is a tablespoon. The handle broke off. It's only 20 years old. So I just add a tablespoon or so at a time. And I'm just gonna get all the clumps. You can use a whisk, but why waste a clean dish, you know, on something? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to season this. This is sea salt. So I'm just going to season it to what I like. And this is black pepper. If I fry like pork chops, what I'll do is I'll use the grease from the pork chops that are already seasoned, and so I don't have to season this. So if you can see the peppers giving it some color, and it's starting to get a little bit darker. So we want it close to the color of the spoon, and color wise. And you don't want it to stick because it'll burn. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and come back once it's to the color that I like to make my tomato gravy. And you know, I'll keep stirring this until it's to that coloring. So I'll go ahead and pause the video for now. Okay, so I've got it to the consistency or the color that I want. So if you want to take a look here at how this is. So it's a golden brown. Now I'm going to add my tomatoes, and this is going to sizzle and steam. And I have some hot water that I put in here, and my measuring cup. I'm just going to add a little bit. Add a little bit at a time. And I'm just going to stir because it's starting to stick. So I'm just getting that unstuck from the bottom. So I'm going to add a little more. And make sure you get it, you know, stir everywhere. Make sure you get all the pieces unstuck. Like I said, if you wanted to use a whisk, this would be great for using a whisk. I just don't feel the need to dirty up anything extra. And you just want to get it to the consistency or the thickness that you want, and it will thicken up a little bit. So now we're going to turn it down to low. I've got it on 3, and I'm just going to let it simmer, and it's, you know, it's pretty much done. And I'll show you also my green beans. They're pretty much ready. I've got 3 minutes left on the meatloaf, so I'm going to turn these down to low. I've already turned the water off on for the mashed potatoes. So I got a wooden spoon. It's just what I like to use for my potatoes. And since I'm making 2 packages, I had 4 cups of water in there to boil. I'm just trying not to make a mess and have this flying everywhere. And you don't want to turn the water off boiling and then add the potatoes instantly, because it will start to bubble and boil and pop, and it hurts. It will burn. So for those of you who don't have time to make homemade mashed potatoes, this is a great substitute. They taste really good. So I just mix that in, and I've got a couple, there's about 2 tablespoons of butter left in here. So I'm going to put that in just to give it more of a home style flavor to it. Okay, they're stirred up pretty good. Butter will continue to melt. The tomato gravy is looking good. I'm gonna let that go. I've got 2 minutes left on the meatloaf. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and get my little spatula here and pull this out. And this one seems to be wider, but this one seems to be taller. So I'm just gonna cut it in half. and it looks pretty good. Check this one. Yep, looks pretty good. I'd give it a few more minutes. So I'm going to stick this back in here, and it's only been in there for 45 minutes. The buzzer's fixing to go off, but I'm going to give it an extra 5 minutes. And so I'm going to pause right now, and I will come back as soon as it's ready to come out. Okay, so I'm ready to take the meatloaf out. I'm going to sit it right here for just a moment. And I'm going to go ahead and drain all this liquid off, or as much off as possible. Just try to be careful and don't dump your meatloaf in the sink. Okay, so you can see it's done. I got a little bit of ketchup right there. And what I do is I just slice it to serve it. Excuse me. So give me just a minute and I'll have it all sliced up, okay? Okay, I've got the meatloaf sliced up. If you can see there. Just one loaf, because we'll save the next loaf for tomorrow night. So I got a plate here to show you. One of my daughters eats gravy, the other one does not. My husband does not eat gravy. So I only make the tomato gravy for my oldest daughter and myself. So I've switched to a bigger spoon. So what I do is I just pull it down like that. This is a southern plate of meatloaf and mashed potatoes, tomato gravy, and green beans. This is what we've always eaten growing up. The only thing that I'm missing are biscuits, and we just don't eat much bread anymore in our family. So I hope you enjoy it. It's a crowd pleaser at my house. So let me know what you think. Thanks.